eventually you get absorbed in, and you are Sonic.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to No Repeat, a podcast where we pick 3 songs with no repeats and no do-overs to create a perfect playlist for every occasion life throws at you. Joining me are my co-hosts, Tyler Reed.
Hey, everybody.
And Sean Evans. Is this the launch of your new ASMR spin-off podcast, Sean?
That's the good stuff.
Giving you all the good crinkle tinkles over there. Well, it is week 2 of our 3-part best of series for the end of the year. And this week we're talking about classics, some of our favorite classic tracks that we rediscovered this year. But of course, we're still on the hunt for new songs and new challenges for the new year. Tyler, where can people send us new challenges?
I was getting ready to do what's up, you cool cats and kittens, but I'm not going to do that. That's we already did that episode.
That's so 9 months ago.
That hurts.
Hey, folks, do you got something weird or wacky to have us find a perfect song for? Well, I got a place for that. You can DM us on Instagram or Twitter at NoRepeatPod, or you can send us a big long email with all sorts of crazy, wacky, wild challenges. Nothing's too extreme to NoRepeatPod@gmail.com. Thanks so much.
So the idea behind the Classic Faves episode here was to give us an opportunity to talk about songs that didn't come out this year, but that we really fell for this year. They don't have to be a new discovery or anything, just something from the past that you dredged up over the course of 2020. And for me personally, I spent a lot of 2020 doing deep dives on artists that I just felt like I didn't know enough about, or genres that I was interested in. Because like everyone, I had a lot of time at home. And because my boyfriend travels a lot for work, I had a lot of time at home by myself in the evenings while he was off working. And so it gave me the apartment to myself with my nice speaker system, and I would just put on music for a few hours and maybe read a book or do a puzzle or play some cards or something. And it really gave me the chance to just dive deep on some stuff that I hadn't spent a lot of time with in the past. A lot of artist-specific stuff. I went through this big, long power pop phase after our discussion with Merlin Mann. I did a 70s like krautrock and electronica like Kraftwerk binge for a couple of nights. I went on a huge singer-songwriter spree in July with Andy Schaaf and Phoebe Bridgers and Soccer Mommy and that kind of stuff. I've just kind of been all over the place this year, but I think the thing that I've really been interested in is music that can kind of transport me. I've been looking for things to kind of remove me from the current moment because it's just getting so tiring looking at the same 4 walls all the time and like watching the same shows on TV that I watch every night. And so to have some music where I can just kind of like close my eyes and zone out and like be in a different place was really what I was looking for with these classics this year. But what about you guys? What was your journey throughout the year? How did you dredge up some old favorites?
A lot of time it was for the show. And I went through a phase where I was listening to stuff that maybe about a couple months ago, where I was listening to stuff in high school that I liked a lot. And I realized that I might have said it on a show like previously, but a lot of albums from our high school time, we can put that in brackets, probably like a little bit before me and a little bit after Taylor, was basically just a bunch of emo rock operas that just never really got turned into a stage plays yet. I mean, I don't know. Think of like anything that's, I don't know. Go for it.
My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, Taking Back Sunday, Death Cab for Cutie, all of that stuff.
Yeah, right, whatever. Like Silverstein, yeah, whatever. It just goes and goes. And then I was listening to some metal and stuff that I was playing on drums when I played drums back in high school. I had a drum set. I still like to call myself a drummer. I just don't have a drum set. But then, like, recently, I've just really tried to find stuff that I thought was inspiring. I usually go through, like, a kick right around Christmas when it gets cold, and then usually through, like, March, where I'm really into playing guitar and writing music and stuff. And I think that's just because there's not a lot to do outside. And I, as you guys, I mean, Taylor and Tyler know, I spend a lot of time, like, exercising outside and doing things outside. I just always have like that. But that said, I think it's kind of where I'm at with that one. So when I discovered this song, which is probably a couple months, I just thought it was so peculiar and interesting sounding that I kind of immediately fell in love with it. So I'm glad that we picked this one because I really want to talk about this song. I think I've talked about it on B-sides or on Billy Joe Armstrong's at some point in time. And it's kind of always been on rotation for me, so.
I don't know why I wasn't prepared to answer this question, even though like we've had this challenge prepared, but I was just kind of like, I don't know. I think songs just kind of happen upon me in times in various ways. Like I will see someone share a song, or it'll be like a B-side on this for this podcast, or like it'll be on my Discover Weekly. I think recently, actually, I've sort of really condensed down my music discovery. But I would say like the first, like kind of once fall hit, everything kind of trailed off, because I feel like that's kind of like the music release cycle, right? Is where I feel like summer's usually a great time to release an album. You know, fall, kind of winter. I mean, that's when everyone's putting out their Christmas songs. But I don't know. I just feel like I wasn't really just what am I trying to say? I don't know. I just feel like there was definitely, I definitely hyper fixated on very specific artists this year at certain points, just through like random happen chance. And so those are obviously just the ones that kind of end up being the close picks, the B-sides for this challenge. So,
well, who wants to go first this week?
I do.
Go ahead, Tyler. What did you bring us?
This week I chose Premonitionary Dream by Crying. So Crying is sort of this cult-like band. They have a cult-like following. Their first album was very chiptune inspired. And then this is from their second album, Beyond the Fleeting Gale. They sort of dropped that a little bit. But aside from that aspect of it, I think largely the band has remained the same. This came out in 2016, and it feels like people have kind of been like asking and like begging for there to be like another album. This is sort of like one of those bands that everyone kind of expects to have something come out, and I feel like maybe they had like hinted they were working on something. Anyway, this is actually Alex Lockwood at 71 DPI is one of his favorite bands, and so I'm pretty sure this is how I found them. But I feel like if you know me, you probably understand why I like this. It has a sort of it sort of like blends like kind of like Anamanaguchi in the way that it sort of has like a little like video game influence to it. It also has a sort of like Sarah Benito-esque vocal delivery, but with obviously some different flair to it, but a sort of monotone line vocal delivery. But there's actually a decent amount of dynamics in her performance, but I feel like maybe it's like, I'm not a vocal expert, but it does feel flat in a way, but I do think she does do a lot of interesting things with it. But this song in particular, just real good. It's the first track off the album, so I feel like it starts you off slow, but it really just rips towards the end, though, right? I kind of re-picked up this band because their drummer or their guitarist Ryan put out a new album with the singer from Japanese Breakfast, so that kind of got the buzz from them kind of going again. And I really just think Ryan's guitar work is interesting, is exciting, but it's also really intense. Like it can be slow, it can be low, it can be like kind of like background, but like I feel like it's the dynamics. It just I feel like the way that he's able to it doesn't really feel it feels unique, but I wouldn't say to this guitarist, but I wouldn't say it is a unique approach. It's the loud, it's the loud, it's the soft, it's the loud, it's the soft. I feel like there's big dynamics, big like crunchy dynamics. But I think the song is just really interesting. There's lots of movement. There's high points, low points. I just think it's a really good jam that I think is just a little bit more than surface level sort of rock. I think it's got a lot of stuff going on under the hood that's really cool.
I remember when this album came out, you like sang its praises to me, and it just kind of bounced right off me. I don't know why, but now listening to this track in particular, I really want to go back to it because this is, like you said, just different enough from being like a typical hard rock song that it feels really like refreshing, I think, to me. Like the synths are not what you expect them to be, and there are like entirely different synth melodies during the quiet passages than there are in the loud passages. Like it really feels like the kind of song that was like written in phases almost, or is like thought of in phases. Like it goes through an interesting progression, which I find interesting, but it still has a traditional verse chorus verse structure, which I think makes it easily consumable and memorable. Like you said, the guitar tones are really powerful. Even when they're quiet, they're still like visceral and grimy, and that distortion is so heavy. It's a really nice contrast with her very pristine, clear vocal performance. Based on like a couple of listens, it seems like her vocal is double tracked, which I feel like just adds a little bit of otherworldliness to it. Like there's something about a double tracked vocal that just really gets me. I feel like it's probably my years of listening to Modest Mouse that like if it's done well, it just really takes the song to another level, and I feel like it does a lot for this performance. This is really cool. I'm definitely going to check this album out.
In the comments, it talks about this song being in the genre of crycore, which I think is really funny. When did this come out? What year did this come out?
2016.
Okay, so it's not that old.
It's not from this year.
That's not. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's not me saying like, well, this isn't a classic. Blah 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 blah. No, I'm not saying that. It just wasn't clear from, like when you look at YouTube and it says like the date, everything starts in 2009. So I can never really quite like, unless it's explicitly said somewhere like when it was first published or something, I can't really know. It said 2016, which doesn't mean anything.
Right. No, I understand.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. But no, the song is a fun little power pop thing, right? And I like all the tones. I don't think that it's very flat. I think the bass and guitar are so close together in terms of like, not how they sound, but what they're playing, that it almost sounds like it's flat. Like her voice really sticks out. I think that's the quality of it being mixed really good. But I like that there's like an arpeggiated synth in there towards the end. I like there's like a beautiful, nice set of textures, and it's not sad, even though it's crycore, which I love. I feel like I want to name something like a fish or something after that. Crycore the fish. That's a prog rock band name right there. But no, I thought this was really nice. I think this is like, well, I don't think we would find this in like, I don't think any of our songs we'd actually find in the canon of like classic rock songs. I feel like it's bands like these that 10 years from now in 2030, there will be somebody that you're listening to and they will talk about crying as a song that inspired them, which just seems so weird. Like it always surprises me when I watch interviews with my favorite artists, like that they're so into these bands that are like obscure and they've been into them since they were like kids. And I feel like I never had a band that I was like really, I don't know, I could probably come up with some that would like, you'd be like, what?
It will be. It doesn't seem like it now, but through the sands of time, people will forget about.
Right.
Secret and Whisper.
Eveline.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like you could say like, oh yeah, here's this, and I don't know. It's like the false challenge of this show all the time is that as if there was like a finite number of songs that we were almost destined to run out of something eventually. Don't tell anybody. Shh, it's secret. But no, I thought this was wonderful as far as like a yearly faves. Does this like show up in your work anywhere?
My visual art.
Yeah, do you like use brighter colors or something, or does your character smile more, or do you make post boxes with more like negative space outlining better when you listen to this stuff?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, honestly, recently it's been a lot of just YouTube. Like, I need this to be the littlest amount of interesting as possible so that I can focus on what I'm working on. So, like, honestly, music recently hasn't been what I've been doing when I've been making art.
Yeah.
Mostly it's been when I'm trying, like folding laundry or whatever, and or making dinner actually is a lot of time. And that's kind of like why a lot of the songs I've been picking have been kind of groovy, kind of boppy. because I just love to dance in my kitchen.
So it has come out in your creativity, just not necessarily in your graphic design.
Yes.
I like that. That's nice.
Well, Tyler, you gave me a really good segue to my pick, actually. So I guess I'll go next. I chose Fascination by David Bowie. So Fascination is off of Bowie's Young Americans record. And as I alluded to at the top of the show, I did a massive deep dive on Bowie this summer. I think I've talked about it on here before, but I basically just went in chronological order through every David Bowie album, and I would spend like 2 or 3 nights with each of them, just kind of like learning them, because I never really did that. I always kind of like followed the hits. And for some reason, Young Americans is the one that just stuck to me like glue. And I have listened to this record, oh my gosh, probably 30 times this year. Like, I just love it. I love this like plastic soul that he's doing on here, that like, it's a little bit angular, it's a little bit off, it's not quite real soul music because it's David Bowie. But he's got soul musicians, he's got gospel background singers, he's got these funky Nile Rodgers guitars on this track that just, ooh, so funky. And this track in particular, Fascination, it's kind of like a B-side on the album. It's not a single like Young Americans or Fame, but it's got such a good groove to it. And I found myself cooking to this constantly and dancing around my apartment. And like when I was having a night where like the COVID blues were really getting me down, to just mix up a cocktail and put on Young Americans, and I think this is like track 3 or 4, inevitably I'm dancing by the time this song comes on. Because it's just such a mood, it's such a vibe, and I feel like it instantly transports you to this kind of like funky dreamscape that David Bowie is painting. I don't really know what this song is about other than just being fascinated by something. I don't think it needs to be about anything. It's fascinating in and of itself, and I think if the backing track wasn't enough, like his weirdly, yearningly sexual vocal performance just like pulls you in. Like, he sounds like a really well mixed Manhattan at 2:30 in the morning. Like on this track, it's just so smooth and sexy and weird and like a little woozy and wobbly. I love it so much.
Just want to say, love the saxophone because I know Sean's not going to. So I think it's interesting that you kind of chose a Bowie song that's out of the canon, you know, the pantheon of, because I don't think this is like a single or like,
no, not at all.
This is just like a middle of the cut album, like the middle of the album pick, and it just sounds good. So like that being said, I think it's a really interesting choice that you kind of went with something that was, I think is a certain level. Like I think this is good. Obviously, it's Bowie, but it doesn't feel like single material, right? Because I feel like what this is it's sort of like, as you kind of said, it's kind of like a middle of the album kind of song where you're kind of just trying to, where it's the aesthetic, you're setting like a pace, you're trying to create a mood and atmosphere, and I think it does all of that in a surplus. You know, it's not gonna have those memorable lines from like Heroes or other Bowie songs. I just know we specifically have picked Heroes on this podcast before, which is like, wow, this is a great song. So I feel like I needed you to tell me the reason why you picked it, because I was like, I don't know if I understand why this is the song. I feel like I kind of knew in the back of my mind why you chose it. But it's cool. I mean, I think it absolutely establishes a vibe, and I think, you know, like, I don't know if I'll pick it out of, you know, like, I don't know if this is a song that I'm gonna like go out of my way to like put onto like a playlist. Like, maybe it will. I don't know. I feel like I haven't listened to this in the correct context. Because you said you were cooking. I feel like if I slapped this on my record player and I heard this, I'd be like, hell yeah, this is good. I love this. I feel like sitting here with my headphones, like kind of like mindlessly doing something else is not the right way to experience this. So I think this is a good pick. I think it's a perfect pick for your year. I feel like I need to investigate more personally on my own time. It's a good pick, though.
I like this song.
The sax doesn't turn you off?
I'm glad that you found... No, because it's David Bowie. Sometimes the rules don't apply. This song is also almost 6 minutes long, and it's basically just intense the entire time. So there's lots that I could pick apart about it. But you know what? It's David Bowie. Plays by its own rules.
It does do that.
Don't have to...
Bowie exception.
It does.
Like the only exception, but the
I mean, Young Americans is this album that I think I need to listen to more now that you've said this. Because, like, I know Fame. Like, I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the probably, like, greatest hits of David Bowie, but I never really took a deep dive.
I mean, if you like the song Fame, this album is basically just all songs that sound like Fame.
Oh, all right. Well, then I'm very interested then. So, there's not much...
Fame, also co-written with John Lennon, just as a random fun fact.
Here we go.
Oh.
Also, speaking about John Lennon, my cat also died when John Lennon died. The same day.
40.
It's really weird.
40 years later.
Yeah, weird.
R.I.P. to two great ones.
Yeah, they were both wonderful. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this, honestly. It's a great song. Just go listen to it. I'm inspired by it. I want to go check out Young Americans as I move into this introspective period of the year for me. So I'll definitely be checking that out. It's interesting that cooking is coming up as music listening time for you guys so much, because I don't have that.
It's one of the only breaks in the day of the COVID lifestyle, you know?
Yeah.
Because you don't have the commute to listen to music on anymore.
Yeah.
See, I didn't. I was trying to make it to work safely, because traffic is terrible here.
That's fair. Well, Sean, that just brings us to you. What do you have for us this week?
This week, my choice is Janitor by Suburban Lawns. So, the first time that I heard this song, I absolutely loved it. I loved all the different sounds. I love her vocals. I love that the word genitals is used so many times in it. And I feel like 2020, particularly after March, and more so probably over the summer, was when I really just started. I have a friend at work who, like, is probably the collector of obscure music tastes. And I go to him sometimes to get, like, really weird stuff, like, what are you listening to? And give me some inspiration. And I didn't find this through him, but, like, knowing that he's like that kind of inspires me to find some more unique things. And I was going through, like, a little new wave thing. I'm kind of realizing that my whole life. I think I really like new wave. I just haven't really realized it until I turned 31.
Dude, same.
And I think what I love about this track is that it's so different and catchy than a lot of the other rock music I was listening to at the time. And it's a little sad because they only made this. I think they made 2 albums. I think this is the second one.
They made an EP before this, but this is their only full-length album.
Yeah, so not even right. So they're technically only one album, but, like, I love that I've watched live performances of this song. I think they actually did this song on SNL. So they actually found, like, a little bit of success. It just never really panned out into anything. And the fact that she actually does that, like, wavy sound in real life is really interesting to me. And they all have this, like, stage personality is cool. And when you listen to the whole album, it's really mixed. You get, like, a bunch of people doing vocals, and it's not just consistent the whole way, but it has the intensity and energy that the song does, which is cool. So I guess that's why I kept coming back to it. I just wanted to be inspired, and I felt like it was a nice break to have something that was fun in media, because I feel like this year it was just pandemic election, like every single day, it still is. And like, just to find media that's just not completely obsessed with the same two stories is like outstanding. And there's no reason why when consuming something it has to be like the same thing. I don't know. It's like, what do you want? Like ham sandwich or ham sandwich with cheese on it? Like, I don't know. It's just, you can have a pizza.
Well, I think there's something to be said too about like just how stupid this song is.
Oh, it's the best stupid.
Yeah. So I heard this song in a coffee shop maybe like 18 months ago, back when we could still go to coffee shops. And I immediately Shazammed it and added the whole album to my library because I was like, this is so weird. I love this. And I spent a good 2 weeks like falling in love with Suburban Lawns and then completely forgot about them. So Sean brought them up on an episode of our Patreon exclusive Village Armstrong's Middle School Notebook podcast. Support us for $1 a month and you get a whole extra episode every month.
Hey.
And he made me revisit them, and then when he picked them for this challenge, I was so pleased, because they are deeply weird. Or I guess they were deeply weird. Like, every song on this album is so weird, and this one is no exception. I love the story behind this song. Supposedly, Sue Tissue McLean, they all had fake nicknames for the band, was talking to a friend and realized that if you said the phrase, "I'm a janitor," fast enough, it sounds like, "Oh, my genitals." And that just became the whole premise of this song. Like, the verses are about working as a janitor, and the chorus is going back and forth between saying, "I'm a janitor," and "Oh, my genitals." And, like, that's it. That's all this is. It's so dumb, but it's so weird. And the, like, kooky, angular guitars are, like, so late 70s, early 80s new wave post-punk. It's amazing how well it's recorded for as low budget as it was. They were on IRS Records, which is not a record label to ignore. Like, they did some good stuff, but they weren't a huge label. And so for this to sound as good as it does and to have made it onto SNL is a big deal. And the music video for one of their songs was directed by Jonathan Demme, who did a bunch of work with Talking Heads. Like, they were poised to be one of the great art rock bands of the late 70s and early 80s, and it just never came together for them, which is really unfortunate. But I'm glad that we have this one amazing record to show for it, because it's so good, you guys. Like, just go find it. I know it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify and Apple Music. Like, it is well worth the 45 minutes. It's so fun.
So I feel like this song makes a lot of sense when you consider they're kind of like art school students, and then like in like the early 1970s, right? And so, like, if you just, like, think about it in that context, you're like, oh, it's weird, but that's the point. And, like, if you consider the music that was kind of released surrounding, you're like, oh, they're just, like, playing with, like, whatever. They're pushing boundaries in interesting ways. And I was also like, God, this sure is a dumb song for Sean to pick. I'm like, I feel like Sean doesn't really pick dumb songs. And then I remember that he was the one who was like, no, the Chats are actually a great band, and you should definitely listen to them. I was like,
all he wants is a good pub feed.
I realized that just now. It's like if you took the Chats and combined it with like Arcade Fire. And it's kind of what you get, and you throw them in like the 1970s. You're like, that's kind of like what Suburban Lawns is. I mean, it's goofy, it's fun. It kind of feels Bowie-esque, which is kind of interesting that you kind of picked like the jangly guitar kind of fits in there. Yeah, I feel like it's weird, but I mean, I kind of like it. I'm into it. It's I feel like I have to listen to the album in order to get the full picture here. Because I feel like this song alone is kind of like, you're kind of like, what?
I mean, the song Flying Saucer Safari may be one of the best weird punk songs of all time.
I feel like...
And it's the opening track of this album.
I shouldn't explore more, because if that second song title...
Apparently, a rock and roll magazine called Trouser Press described this band as a sub-devo mesh of hiccuping vocals, angular tunes, tiresome start-stop rhythms, and a high, weedy guitar organ sound.
Yes. Nothing about that is wrong.
Yeah.
But hey, I'll still take it.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this is a really weird pick, but I feel like it makes sense when I laid it all out on the table. Like that the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme.
All right, now it's time for notable B-sides, and these were songs that were so close to getting on here as classic faves, but let's just be honest, in a challenge like this, you're probably more likely to see stuff kind of pop up. So, anybody got some notable B-sides?
It's Always Binary by Soulwax. Almost my pick.
That's gonna get on here eventually.
It's
been a B-side a few times.
It's been there quite a few times. I was literally about to pull the trigger and I almost picked it. And then just any Wolf Alice song, because I also was really into that this for like a solid like month. I already picked Soften, but Soften I had another like moment where I was like, I need to listen to this album over and over again. And I feel like I had already talked about this in some capacity, but just the entirety of Parquet Court's Wide Awake. Just throw it on there. But we've already featured them on here, so I don't need to do it again. Actually,
That record is so good.
it's not on here.
No, we talked about that on Dude's Brunch.
No, it was an episode that got deleted.
Oh, Parquet Court's still on the table.
Oh no! I should have picked it. No, it's okay.
You should have. It's not really a classic, though. It's only a year old. It was a 2019 record. But anyway.
No, that's true. That's true.
All my classics were quote-unquote true classics in that they're over 20 years old, if you want to call it that. So I had Panic in Detroit, also by David Bowie, off of Station to Station. That Would Be Something by Paul McCartney, off of his self-titled solo record. Susie Don't Leave by The Go, which is a Detroit-based garage rock band from the 90s. And their first record, which this is on, has Jack White playing lead guitar before they kicked him out because he was spending too much time on the White Stripes. And then an honorable classic faves mention to the classic rock song of the year that spawned a dozen million TikTok memes, Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Almost picked it.
Thanks, Stevie. Hope you're doing all right.
Thanks, Dogface420.
Dogface. Really pour one out for a real one. Dogface, who will have to forever have to carry a bottle of cranberry ocean spray for the rest of his life, or otherwise people won't know who he is.
Don't worry, he's already got a brand deal with them. He'll be fine.
Incredible.
I knew what I wanted and I went right for it.
Sometimes that's just what you do. Well, Tyler, if people want to cry with you, where can they do that?
Hey everybody, you can find my design illustration work at rudepets.club, and as always, find me at socials at Rudepets Club on Instagram and Twitter.
Sean, if people want to learn how to be a janitor from you, where can they do that?
You can find me on Instagram at TellySean.
And if you are fascinated by me, you can follow me on the socials at TC Olmstead. All of these songs will be on the No Repeat podcast playlist on Apple Music and Spotify. And we'll be back next week with the best songs of the year on another episode of No Repeat.